So for my exercise prescription for this patient, 70-year-old, the two main things I'd want to work on are flexibility and balance. So for flexibility, the main thing I picked out was the hamstrings, since they had 0 degrees of range of motion. Might be playing an indication hip extension with hamstrings and glutes with walking. 0 degrees of hip extension can be a problem with having falls. So the first stretch I would do for this one would be so it's a hamstring stretch in supine with a strap. So normally, I don't have a strap with me here, but we give it to the patient since they were in the clinic to go home with. So basically what they do is you lay down, you have the strap up above, and they hold kind of in that position to kind of stretch out the hamstrings. Me, I already have super tight hamstrings, so the stretch I should be doing too. So with that one, for this, I would do about 3 to 4 days a week. And when I would hold it for about 60 seconds, if not more, and the patient should feel resistance. That's the key of this type of stretch, is to feel resistance in the back of the hamstrings and slightly in the glutes. So it's kind of like a sustained stretch since we're using the strap and whatnot. And if they can do it, so the 3-4 days a week, if they can do it like 2 to 3 times a day, I'd try to say, to kind of just increase the more plasticity of that muscle to lengthen. And then, so for a progression, since she's 70 years old, like that stretch maybe like she gets real well at. Next one I call is the pigeon stretch. So first I'd have the patient kind of getting like all fours right here, and then take one leg and cross it over, and then you just tell the patient to then lean forward, and then do the same thing with the other side. And so that's like my progression, just because it's a little harder stance to get into, and I feel a more sustained stretch. And the same thing with the frequency, 3 to 4 times a week. Try to do it 2 to 3 times a day to kind of get more of that plasticity. And should always hold for a minimum of 60 seconds, just because that's what the tissues need to actually see change. And should always feel resistance. If they're not feeling resistance, then it's becoming too easy. And then if at first that hamstring stretch supine with the strap was too hard, I'd have the patient do this one, which I call the seated glute stretch. So you'd start off with your long sitting, put one leg over, and then take your other arm and just turn. That you should be feeling in the glutes. And then do the same thing with the other side. And for both of these, same thing about the frequency, 3 to 4 days a week, a couple times a day, 2 to 3, to help keep with the stretching of the muscle, and holding for 60 seconds as always. If they can hold longer than 60 seconds, I'd say that's like key. If they can do a little longer, like that's alright, because it's just going to help more with the lengthening of the muscle, maybe then help with that range of motion. And then the second thing I would work on is balance. So since the problem with her like walking, so balance is probably a key thing. She, with the balance test, they did a 4-step balance test, she had a problem with the tandem stance. So the first thing I would have her do is just try to work on working the tandem stance just normally. And I'd kind of like do it where maybe like have a chair in front, so that she can maybe like hold on, like if she loses balance, like this is a start. And if like this is like when I'm there, before I progress, and maybe work on getting up to 30 seconds, and then also maybe try to work on eyes closed and add like a cognition element, like adding, subtracting, or saying the months or whatnot. For the Fit VP for this, I would say do this daily. This is something she can work on every single day. She can do that every day, maybe 2 to 3 times, once to twice each day. That will really help like increase her balance. And if a progression, like after the tandem stance gets really good, which might take a long time with this patient, I would then work on kind of maybe at home, she puts like a tape on the ground and whatnot in a straight line, and work on tandem walking, so walking on a straight line, But first, I'd more have her do like with the tape, have the tape kind of run right in between and kind of do semi-tandem walking. And this would just help with more dynamic, so it's not so much a static balance. It helps with the dynamic aspect with just walking around the house and everyday activities. They're not always just standing, so it kind of gets the whole movement. And then regression, as I said before, like instead of, I would have them try to work on tandem first, but if that was the problem, more get the semi-tandem and then add more like cognitive and like motor aspects, maybe like moving her arms or holding a drink and whatnot. So the normal one would be more of a static one, and then moving into more dynamic and a progression just to help with like daily activities. Doing these daily once or twice a day, and just first off trying to get to 30 seconds is the first key, because that's like 10 or more in the balance. 20 seconds is first, and then kind of like working the way up to 30 just to kind of just more like then so can have more less falls and whatnot. But 10 seconds is normal for the test, but trying to increase up to 20 to 30 just to kind of help the patient out more. But that's it. So do flexibility and balance.